Hi, this is Joe Shannon. I'm a lawyer, a husband, a father of 6 kids, and I also host a podcast called Opening Statement with Joe Shannon. Please consider listening to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and any other folks that host podcasts. Just Google Joe Shannon and podcast, and you'll find it. I hope you enjoyed the show. All right. Hey, I'm thrilled to welcome Amy Maher to the show. So Amy and I go way back to, 1985, when we both entered Notre Dame Law School together. And then remarkably, I graduated. Not so remarkable for Amy because she's a lot smarter than I am. And so we both graduated in 88. And then she headed down to southern part of Illinois. I went to Oregon, ended up in Chicago area. But really, I followed her career, and I thought she'd be a great guest because now she's running to be a circuit court judge in Illinois. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you. It's nice to see you, Joe.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time right now. We're recording this in June of 2020, and so interesting time in our careers in that we both had very interesting in practice. But why don't you let the folks know where you grew up and where you get your education, that type of stuff, Amy.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Alton, Illinois, which is in Madison County, down close to St. Louis. I went to Marquette High School, Catholic high school in town, and then I went to Cornell College over in Mount Vernon, Iowa. And Mount Vernon, Iowa, small town, small school. They do the one course at a time plan. So you take one class, you go 3.5 weeks, and then you have a four-day break, which was always fun. And then I went to the University of Notre Dame Law School and graduated with you in 1988.
Great. And then, so tell me a little about your family growing up. Did you guys grew up in Alton, which is, so you must be a St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Yes, definitely. We're definitely Cardinal fans.
And so do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have one brother and one sister. I'm the oldest of the 3. And
are you guys all lawyers?
2 of us are lawyers. My brother went to Notre Dame, was 2 years behind us, graduated in 1990. And he stayed in South Bend. He's up there with Barnes and Thornburg now. And then my sister was a paralegal for a while, and then she decided it was better to be a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling her 7 kids. So
7 kids.
Yeah,
where is she at?
She's in Flora, Illinois, which is a couple hours away.
Nice. You get to see them quite a bit?
Get to see them quite a bit. We haven't been over there since about February. They live right across the street from my dad. He moved over there. He and my mom moved over there before she passed away, and so he lives across the street from them. So we've been kind of staying away. My husband and I were both working throughout this lockdown period, so we didn't want to take any chances on taking something over there. But yeah, we get to see them pretty regularly in normal times.
That's great. And then, so kind of walk me through what your career has been like since you got out of Notre Dame.
Okay. Well, I started, my first job out of Notre Dame was I went to Anchorage, Alaska, and I clerked for a felony trial court judge in Anchorage for a year. And that was quite an experience.
Well, hold on. How did you work that one out?
Well, there was a Supreme Court justice from Anchorage, from Alaska, who would come down. He was a Notre Dame grad. His son was a Notre Dame student. He would come down and do interviews during football season. And he would select a few attorneys to go work for judges in Alaska. And I was offered a job with one of the felony trial court judges, and it seemed like a really good opportunity that wasn't going to come up again. So I took off and went to Alaska for a year.
Have you written the book about that one yet, Amy?
I have not yet.
You should write that. I mean, coming from Alton, it must have been a little bit, was it in Anchorage?
It was in Anchorage, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of a city life rather than a frontier type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, I really enjoyed living up there. It's beautiful. But they have everything you need. It's not, not too primitive, and it's very well built for the climate. The houses are built for it. They clear the roads like crazy. They're really good at that. So,
Did you spend a year up there?
mhm.
Wow. So you spent the time when it's all dark all the time and then when it's light all the time, right?
Yep. Yeah, I got a full cycle, a full year of being in Anchorage. Now in Anchorage, it never really gets dark 24 hours. It doesn't. We're a little bit south in Anchorage, but it would get light out at about 10 in the morning and get dark at about 3 in the afternoon at the height of winter.
Wow. So you did that, and then so that was in the criminal courts.
Hmm.
What did you do after that?
Then I came back home. My year was up. It was a 1-year clerkship, and so I came back home. And in October of 1989, I started working at the Madison County State's Attorney's Office.
Okay. And so how long were you there?
I was there for 23 years. I stayed there until 2012.
Wow, only 23, huh?
Yeah, just 23.
So in your practice, what did you end up having any sort of specialty, or did you just have a general court?
I was pretty much a specialist in juvenile law, to be honest. I started there. I would move out for a while and then come back, and it finally just made sense to leave me there because I enjoyed doing it. I knew the ins and outs of the juvenile legal system. So I kind of just landed, that was kind of my niche, and I kind of stayed there for most of my time.
And then what did you do in 2012?
In 2012, I left, took about a year off, and my husband had some health issues, and we dealt with all of that. And then in 2013, I started working at Catholic Charities. They were starting a legal services program, and I was hired to start and manage that program. So we're doing legal services, a network of pro bono attorneys to help indigent clients.
Boy, very interested in that. Tell me about how that's been for the last 7 years.
Well, I did that for about 2 years, and then I moved into administration. But for the first 2 years, it was a fascinating job because it really was, the program didn't exist. And so I got to come in and be the person who started it, set up the rules, set up the system and put the system in place, recruited the volunteer attorneys, did all of that. So it was a great program. I still supervise the program, but in 2016, I moved into the director of operations position with Catholic Charities. So I'm not actively working in the legal services program. Once in a while, I'll handle a case or I'll step in and do something, but it's not my primary focus now.
Okay. So, and that was in Springfield?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's in Springfield.
did you have to commute up there, or were you able to operate from Alton?
No, I commuted most of the time.
How far is that?
It's about 70 miles one way.
Whoa. So you do that every day?
Most days. Now, because we're a big diocese, we cover 28 counties in all of central Illinois. So we don't expect, when we meet with clients, we don't expect clients from Effingham or Quincy or whatever to come to Springfield. So I would go on the road and meet with the clients in their local areas, so that they didn't have to travel. So I spent a lot of time running on the circuit, basically going from office to office. But my primary office, and probably 3 days a week, I was in Springfield.
Wow. So then you got into administration after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so tell me about that. What'd you do for that?
So I'm the director of operations. That's still the job that I hold now. And basically I am the supervisor. We have 7 area offices that provide the direct services to the Catholic Charities clients. And I supervise the area directors who run those programs, who run those offices. And then I supervise the legal services program. There's a new attorney who runs the legal services program, and I supervise that program.
So tell me,
human resources stuff,
yeah.
Things like
Yeah.
that.
Tell me what, if some people may not understand what Catholic Charities is.
Well, Catholic Charities is the charitable arm of the Catholic Church. We are a program of the diocese, but we are a separate entity. We have our own executive director. The bishop is our president of our board. It has the final say on any decisions that we make. But it's the program, it's the arm of the church that runs the food pantries. We have mobile food pantries that go out into the rural areas. We do counseling programs. We do child welfare programs. Our programs are designed to fit the communities that they're in. So every office does some things are all in every office, but some things are unique to the area office. One of our offices runs the Meals on Wheels program and has some elder care, guardianship type programs in place, and other offices don't do that. So it's really unique to the area that they serve.
So I bet you that you were kind of challenged during this whole coronavirus COVID thing.
Yeah, I learned a ton of things during this particular event. There were a lot of things coming at us employment wise. We had to make decisions on the fly about, are we going to keep all of our people? We had to shut down our resale stores. We do run some resale stores that sell things to the public, but also provide free goods to people who can't afford to buy them. So we had to shut those down entirely. They're basically just opening up now. We had to decide, were we going to be able to furlough people? Then we had the payment protection plan we had to explore and determine whether that was something we could use. There were grants opportunities coming at us, and that's a management issue to make sure that you comply with the terms of the grants and spend the money the way it's supposed to be spent and track the money the way it has to be tracked for each individual program. The people, we had a communication issue. We had to make sure that we were communicating clearly to our staff what our practices were going to be, what safety measures were in place, what we expected from them, what we would do for them to help keep them safe, and to try to make sure that those lines of communication remained open so that people weren't scared, didn't feel left out. So we did there was a lot of things going on, and the government would change the rules, and then you go back and make sure that you were keeping up with them as they kind of shifted things on the fly. So it's been a challenge, but I like challenges.
That's wonderful. So to sum it up, then you've been a prosecutor for a long time. You started up a network of pro bono, so basically free legal services for people that couldn't afford lawyers, and then you've been an administrator for the Catholic arm, the arm of the church, Catholic Charities, that basically helps out indigent people, right?
Yep. All
right. So now it sounds like to me you're going to try to enter into a new venture. Tell me about that.
Well, yeah. It's been in the back of my mind for some time that Madison County could use some new people on the bench, and those opportunities don't come up very often, but there's an opening that came up this year, and so I have applied for it. I'm running for it. I say applied, I'm running for it. I had the primary in March, which was unopposed, and now I'll be on the ballot in November. And so it's kind of something I didn't really anticipate doing 5 or 6 years ago, but it just seemed like the right time, and the county, I think, could benefit from somebody who has the experience that I would bring to the job.
Yeah, so I've been a trial lawyer for 32 years, and one of the things that I've always had a lot of respect for is the people that take a time away from their practices, their lives, to be a circuit court judge, because it's a hard job. And, to call just balls and strikes and not really lean one way or the other, that is such a great person to have that role. And I can't think of anybody with a better background than you. I mean, having gone through all this stuff to understand what real people are going through, both, going through the criminal justice system, and then also all the different programs that, for folks that need it to be lent a hand. I mean, it sounds to me like, it's a perfect one for you to set up and do.
Well, thank you. I hope that comes to pass. I'm looking forward to taking on that challenge if it is the voters wish that I do so.
Yeah. So did you have to go through all sorts of interviews and all that stuff with bar groups and all that kind of thing?
Not at this level. There was a rating. They do the bar poll, and I was recommended by the bar poll. I've been rated by the Civil Justice League as recommended, by the bar poll as recommended, by Right to Life as qualified. So there are some questionnaires you fill out. At the circuit level, they don't go to the interview process so much.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, because I know that if you interviewed everybody in our class of 1988, they would all come back 100-0 in favor of Amy because, the thing is, a lot of us got into the practice of law and, I got into it and, I've got, basically I've been a trial attorney the whole way through and, for folks in our class to be public servants, like being a state's attorney, or to be an administrator of Catholic Charities, all that type of stuff. I mean, what an amazing career. And I can't think of anybody better to jump into that just because, I could see that if there was somebody that lost a parent and was on their own. I mean, you've seen that situation many times, haven't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I've seen kids whose parents were so terribly horrible to them and they still persevered through some really, really difficult childhoods and turned out very well. So that's also part of what you do in juvenile court is see those cases.
Yeah, so tell me about the juvenile court system. How some people see it just as like a punishment system. Tell me what kind of things you guys were doing during your career to maybe turn around a kid that got in trouble. Maybe he wasn't in the right environment and then wasn't raised properly, basically. I mean, the one thing that I'm really grateful for is I had two parents that that I was their biggest investment. I mean, I'm one of 10 kids, as you know, Amy, and so we all felt like we were super, super rich, although I think my dad crested at about 18 grand a year as a social worker. I never thought I was poor, but because I had my mom and dad constantly in my life, and a lot of kids, they don't have that, and but they get in trouble with the law. Tell us some things that maybe that people don't understand about what you do with kids.
So I think the thing about juvenile court is it's really set up where it can be completely individualized to try to deal with the problems that are causing whatever's going on in that family. So if it's abuse or neglect, you look at the root causes of that and you try to get to them and try to fix those problems so that the parents can be effective parents and the kids can grow up in that kind of stable, loving environment that you and I grew up in. And then the same with delinquent kids. It really isn't a cookie cutter, one size fits all. You committed this crime, so we're going to give you this punishment and, that kind of thing. It really is to look at the individual kid and try to craft a solution to the problem. So some kids just having an encounter with the police, that's going to be enough to stop them from a life of crime. They're not going to want to do that again. The parents react appropriately. And so that fixes the problem. And some kids don't have that kind of support system at home. Parents have substance abuse issues or mental health issues. The kids have substance abuse issues or mental health issues. So you try to come up with a solution that will address those particular problems for that particular kid. Because my goal is for them not to come back. And I don't really care about punishing them, and I don't really care about, hurting them or making them feel pain. I want them to not do this anymore. So what do you do to try to impart that message? And for some kids, they got to be locked up. I mean, they really will keep committing crimes until you lock them up. But you try to do other things short of that first and try to solve problems. And so that's what I really liked that about juvenile court. It's a problem-solving court. You try to fix things. And like most attorneys, we're fixers. We try to come in and come up with solutions to things. So that was a place where you could do it. And you could actually see it working, or in some cases not working, but you could actually see the results as you went on.
So, you were over 20 years there. Did you see, some, was it just anecdotal of the kids that you were able to help, or was it mainly, that that once the kids were in this type of system, they weren't ever going to get out?
No, you saw both. I would see kids that really it made a difference. They would come up, I would see them out in the community, and they would come up and say, hey, Miss Maher, I'm doing all right, thank you. I had one young girl who came from a terrifically abusive home, just a horrible situation, and she was probably 12 or 13 when we started dealing with her case. She was very mature and responsible, and she wanted to be very involved in her case. She wanted to be in court. She wanted to be consulted about what we were doing with her case. And we worked with her. She had her own attorney. I worked with her and her attorney. We resolved the case, got her away from the parents who were abusive to her. And years later, she would stop in and visit me at the office and let me know how she was doing. And she was a great kid. I mean, she was just a phenomenal kid coming out of everything she had been through. And then you saw the other side of it, where I was prosecuting kids I had prosecuted.
Oh boy.
That second and third generation coming through. And so those were not success stories. But I will say that most of those parents remembered me and had some degree of respect for me, and didn't come in with a chip on their shoulder or a bad attitude about the fact that I was now dealing with their kids.
Yeah, great. So tell me, Amy, have there been some people along the way that have been, inspirational to you or game changers for you that even in your early life, or, I always try and bring up folks that have been, kind of made a difference in your life and with people, so that maybe people that watch can be that person for other people. Are there some people, I know there's probably been thousands, but are there people that you specifically recognize as being really inspirational people for you in your career?
Well, certainly my parents. My mom was the daughter of an attorney who was actually a judge in Madison County, and she was determined to raise lawyers. So she set out to make us lawyers. When I was probably early teens, I was going to be a veterinarian. And that was my goal in life, was to be a veterinarian. And you can see how that turned out. My mom clearly won that argument.
Although, Amy, you can tell us about where you live and
Yeah.
the animals you have there.
So I live on 20 acres. My husband and I have 20 acres. We have, I have 2 cats sitting on the couch with me right now. We have a couple of dogs. We have 2 donkeys. We have 4 peacocks and 11 chickens.
So you got your wish a little bit.
I have a little bit. So I kept a little bit of that. But yeah, mom was going to be the mother of attorneys, and she succeeded 2 out of 3 times. And the third one was a paralegal, so I think she could call that a victory as well. I like to tell people I lost my first case. I was going to be a veterinarian until my mom argued with me. And so that was good. And then I would say my first boss at the state's attorney's office, senator, he became a state senator, he's now retired, William Hayne, hired me, gave me a chance, and he was just a really great attorney, and a really great public servant. And I think that made an impression on me, is that once you have the job, it's not about winning and losing your cases. It's not about winning and losing your elections. It's about doing the job for the people, serving the people that you're there to serve, and keeping those people, at the top of your mind whenever you're making decisions about cases. So he was just a really, really good mentor in being a good prosecutor, not just a winning prosecutor, but a good prosecutor, one who really cared about the whole community and how these cases impacted the community.
That's great. And then how about some cases in your career? I know you just told us about that young girl who, she turned around her life, you helped her, and she's come back. That's got to just feel good every time you sit down with her. Are there other stories like that you can tell us about? There
were similar cases like that. She was the one that sticks out the most because I kept up a relationship with her for some period of time, really up until I left the state's attorney's office. I would still see her every couple of years. Like I said, there are other ones where you would see people in the community and they recognize you and come up, make a point of coming up to tell you that they're doing well now. Sometimes I would see them at the courthouse and they would come up and say, "Hey, I'm here, I'm doing great." I'm like, "Why are you here?"
You're right.
If you're doing great, maybe, not hanging out at the courthouse would be good. They're always there with a friend. So there were cases like that. There are thousands of cases that I handled when I was there. And it's hard to single any particular ones out that other than the one girl that we're talking about and a few other, young men who, I remember one young man, his mother was very angry at me because I was prosecuting him and she didn't think I was being fair to him. And I remember him telling Mom, "Calm down, she's just doing her job."
Yeah, right.
So,
How about Catholic Charities? Are there moments that you can remember at Catholic Charities where you feel like, that, hey, this is something that I was meant to do?
Yeah, we had there was one woman, she was mentally disabled and she lived in subsidized housing, and the house was she had an apartment. It was just a wreck. It was bug infested, it was filthy, it was just a disaster. And she got permission to move out, but the landlord wouldn't give her back her security deposit. And so, I called him and he basically just said, "I'm not giving it back because I don't want to." Not because she did anything wrong, not because, there's anything. He just basically said, "I'm not doing it." So I found one of the best real estate attorneys in town and put him on the case. And he took the case for this woman, went to court, and basically got the guy to write a check right there in the courtroom because he threatened to garnish his bank account and get the money back from him forcibly. And so that felt pretty good when the woman called me and her sister called me to thank me for helping them with that case, because that was just a guy, he's done that to hundreds probably of disabled people who didn't have somebody to advocate for them. And so I'm hoping he learned his lesson. I don't know. I haven't gotten any more calls from people living in his buildings, but that one felt pretty good for somebody, it was a few $100s. No, most attorneys aren't going to go crazy, and go to court and spend time getting a few $100s, but the guy really made everybody mad. So we all kind of banded together and worked on that case and got justice for the lady.
I really like that. So tell us, Amy, what are some good books that you've read or that you're reading?
Oh gosh, I read a lot of stuff. So I read. Right now I'm reading The Splendid and the Vile. It's a book about Churchill in World War II, and that's an interesting book. I like a lot of history and a lot of mysteries, and unfortunately I read a lot of true crime.
Yeah.
So I read mostly for fun. I don't read a lot of stuff for. I read legal things, but that's not something I count as reading for fun.
Right, and I that's one of my favorite things is to read a good book, and if I can find a good author, I try and stick with. I read a lot, almost everything that Ron Chernow written. The fellow that wrote the book Hamilton that became the the Big Show or whatever. But I really like his books because it's all first party, so it's all based upon letters they wrote or they received or firsthand accounts. And the thing I like about it is that he doesn't write glowing biographies. He writes ones that show the really bad side of people as well as the good side. And then we kind of, like all of us, all of us have, a side we don't want everybody to see, obviously. And he finds that, but he also finds the great things that they did too. And so to me, I like a good book like that, because I like history.
I like my villains to have some redeeming qualities and my heroes to have some flaws. I don't like the books where it's 100%, this guy's a knight in shining armor and that guy's the devil. Those aren't fun. Yeah. I've read everything by Dana Stabenow, who writes mystery series set in Alaska. So I've read all of those. There's 25 or 26 of her books. So
what's her name again?
Dana Stabenow.
Stabenow?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so all of them are in Alaska?
Yeah, they're almost all set in Alaska.
Have you been back to Alaska?
I did. I got to ride. I took my husband back in 1999. No, 2009. I have to keep my years straight. 2009. So it was 20 years after I had been there. We got to go back up for about a 10-day trip.
How was it?
It was wonderful. Yeah, we need to go back. That's a place that you can never really see enough of.
You like seafood?
I like seafood a little bit. I'm not a huge seafood fan, but in
Yeah.
Alaska, obviously, it's pretty fresh, so it's pretty good.
Yeah,
When you
it was really good.
travel on the
So,
Mississippi River, seafood's not necessarily your first choice.
what's your what are some of your other hobbies or fun things you like to do, Amy?
I like to travel. Obviously I like to work on the farm and spend time with the animals, spend time with my nieces and nephews and my family. I've taken up knitting recently. I'm not terribly good at it, but I have started knitting. So those
I
are
know
the
you're a
kinds of
football
things.
fan too, right?
I'm a huge football fan. Yes, I'm definitely a Notre Dame fan. Never miss a game. So,
You've been to every game?
oh no, not two. I don't go to every game, but I watch every game.
Yeah,
I
and
try to
then
get up. I try to get up once or twice a year, but it
yeah,
helps that my brother's still up there, so I have a place to stay.
right, right. And I know that you get up there quite a bit I mean, do you think they were going to play this year?
I think they'll end up playing. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out in terms of people in the stands and all of that, but I think they're trying real hard to get some games in.
Right. And then what doesn't look like baseball's happening, does it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not sounding good. Although I
Yeah.
guess I saw something the other day where the players basically said, "Look, just order us back." So I don't know. Maybe they've reached a point where they're just gonna, give up on their differences and get back to work. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was I was hoping. So this weekend I was down in Atlanta, and then when I was down there, I was at a conference, and when I got back, there was like, I'm always looking for something to watch, sports wise, and so they had golf on, and I was so entranced to watch actual competitive sport. It was because I'm used to seeing baseball on everything, and
Hmm.
so I think the country just needs it, don't you?
I do. I think that's something that it brings us together in a way, and also heighten some heighten some rivalries. But those are fun as long as you don't take them too seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I saw. I
The
guess
Cardinals Cubs thing.
they were talking about baseball. They were saying that perhaps they would have like a central division, which would be like the White Sox, the Cubs. I think the Cardinals would be in that too. I mean, wouldn't that be fun to see all those
That
teams
would be
play each
great.
other all the time?
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, my wife's a Sox fan, and so she'd love to see him play the Cubs more. And then I'm sure that the Cubs Cardinals thing, you guys love that stuff because I think the Cardinals have been on top of that one for a while.
Well, it's a pretty good history.
So, how many championships have the Cardinals had in the last 30 years?
Oh gosh, I don't know. In the last 30 years, they've got 11 altogether.
11?
Yeah.
Wow. What's your favorite team? Your favorite Cardinals team?
Ooh, I don't know. Probably the mid 80s, the early to mid 80s, and when they were in the series all the time. That was a lot of fun.
Was that when Ozzie was on the team?
Yeah, yeah. Ozzie and Willie and all of those guys.
I love watching Ozzie do those flips, man. He was so good too, man. He was just so
Yeah,
much fun to watch.
yeah. That was a fun team. They were built to play in that ballpark, and they took full advantage with the speed and they weren't swinging for home runs. They were going for hits and bases.
Yeah, that was a fun group to watch. But hey, listen, I wanted to thank you so much for taking some time away from your schedule. And so the election's in November, right?
It is.
But I'm sure heck, we may be dealing with mail-in ballots for everybody. So when does that all start?
Well, as I understand it, they passed a law that says in September they're going to send out applications for ballots. If people don't respond to those, they're going to kind of try to prompt people to respond. So I don't know the mechanics of it. It's new, so I don't really know exactly how it's all going to work. But I do think a lot of people will be voting by mail or absentee ballot, or early voting. So I think the election day will really probably start in early October.
No, that's wonderful. Yeah.
It won't be a one-day thing.
Well, one thing I didn't really discuss with you, and I discussed it with a number of our guests, is how your faith intertwines with what you do for a living, and if it does, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, in my case, it's a little bit obvious since I now work for Catholic Charities.
Yeah.
And I think, Catholic Charities is the charitable outreach that the church is part of the church's integral mission. So we're the hands and feet. We're the ones who go out and do the things that the church is called upon to do. And it's, I mean, I couldn't be any happier working in a place like that. The people I work with are wonderful. Everybody's there for the right reason. It really, truly is about helping people who need our help. No judgment, nothing, negative. It's all about lifting people up and helping people through tough times. Which like I said, some people say that's separate from the church, but it's just not. It is what the church is meant to be, which is a healing presence for the rest of our community, and that's what we try to be at Catholic Charities.
Yeah, I don't think it's a real quote, but they said that St. Francis, we used to sit around with his friars and basically say, listen, guys, we're going to town today and we're going to go evangelize, and if necessary, use words. So basically, yeah, just do good things with people, listen to them, listen to meet them where they're at, rather than where you want them to be. And the one thing that I find from Catholic Charities. So I got a great Catholic Charities story if you got a moment.
Sure.
So yeah, my mom used to volunteer for Catholic Charities, so I think that's kind of why I got a soft spot for you, Amy, and what you're doing. Because my mom worked for Catholic Charities as a volunteer, and then they went into some home where there was some abuse going on, and they basically found a kid that was locked in a closet, and for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just and so my mom just brought him home. Yeah, and so they thought he was profoundly mentally damaged, but he really wasn't. He was just deaf, and he was 95% blind, and so that's my brother.
Good. Wow.
That was a great story. I mean, so I was number 9, and they brought him number 10, and so Catholic Charities obviously is huge in my family because we all learned how to do sign language. Mm-hmm. My little brother is he runs a produce department in Seattle, or in a burb of Seattle, Issaquah, and is he lives in a condo that my sister Ann bought and rents out to him, and he's in his 50s, and he's basically worked his whole life and graduated high school, and so I love Catholic Charities. Yeah,
it's a wonderful organization, and it's not about preaching. We don't preach. It's about living in a way that other people would say, hey, I'd like to be like that. It's not about telling you about faith. It's about demonstrating it. And so it's just a wonderful place to work. It really is.
Well,
it's not just Catholics. So.
Yeah. I found that. So, I mean, the one thing that my mom always, my mom was very open to everybody, because, the one thing, the word Catholic means universal, and it means that that the outreach is to everybody. Everybody's welcome. And so I would say most of the communities that we were outreach to, as well as St. Vincent de Paul, which I'm involved in out here by where we live, is most of the folks really, aren't folks that are involved with the Catholic Church at all. They basically are in a situation where they're fellow humans, which is that's the kind of group that I'm in, is fellow humans, and we just help out everybody. And so that's I don't go by monikers of what somebody's political party is, what their skin color is, what their religion is, all that type of stuff. It's basically we're fellow human beings, and we're all in this together. So why not help each other, huh?
Exactly. Just be nice to people. That's really all we ask of each other, is just be nice to people. And a lot of people would be surprised. Probably 50% of the people who work for Catholic Charities in our diocese aren't Catholic. We have a lot of employees who aren't Catholic, but they love our mission. They love what we do, and so they are part of our community, and they work right alongside of us, and it's it's a wonderful. I said, it's just a truly wonderful place to work.
That's great. Yeah, I was when I first came to Chicago. I didn't have a job, so I was interviewing, and I interviewed at this firm called Siegel, McCambridge, Singer and Mahoney. So. Jewish guy, Catholic guy, Jewish guy, Catholic guy, and when they were hiring, I don't think they did it on purpose, whatever. They was just basically whoever, So when I got there, I found out how of much of a melting pot Chicago is, and all faiths come together, and we're all just trying to help out other people. And to me, I'm so blessed to have folks from every denomination, every race, every, all those types of things, as clients, as well as, colleagues and that type of thing. So to me, I just wish the whole world was, had that type of approach, that we could, just to all get along,
Yeah, that would be wonderful if we could reach that.
Well, one day at a time, Amy. So I will be rooting from you from up here in the stands, up in Chicagoland, and I'm hoping that your campaign goes well. And then keep us updated, and then maybe we'll be talking to you later on about how it's going if you got time.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to talk to you again.
All right, Amy, thanks so much. Say hi to Roger for me.
I will. Say hi to Michelle and the kids.
And the donkeys.
I will say hello for them.
All right.
All right. Take care.
See you, Amy.
Thank you for listening to the opening statement with Joe Shannon. You can find us on the internet at shannonlawgroup.com or telephone our office at 312-578-9501. Have a terrific day.